Welcome to another edition of Tampa Bay Insiders. Today we're going to be talking to Richard Gonzmart, the owner of the very famous Columbia restaurant. Here and in many other places. Richard, I'm so glad you could be with us. I'm Louise Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of Tampa Bay Community Network, where you can come down, take video production training, and have a show of your own. Richard, you're a Tampa native. Not too many of you around.
No, I'm actually a third-generation Floridian and second-generation Tampan.
A second-generation
Tampan, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents were both born in Tampa.
And you were born into the restaurant business.
You know, my earliest memories when I was 3 years old going into the kitchen. I grew up, that was my playground on the weekends, and I'd come and go into the kitchen, and I'd one day into the walk-in cooler, and I see this whole red snapper and a pompano trout looking at me, and they scared me. I ran out the door screaming. The chef was laughing at me, and my grandfather says, "¿Qué te pasa, muchacho? What's wrong with you, kid?"
Yeah.
And he took me in there to tell the fresh fish, so every Friday I had to go see the fish. So that was my first job.
He taught you how to distinguish the good fish, or what?
He says, you look in the eyes for the clarity. He'd open up the gills. He said the gills should be dark or bright red. And then he had me touch the flesh. He said, should be firm. So every Friday I would go in there and report. Here I am, 3.5 years old, reporting to my grandfather if the fish were fresh. But now comes one day and I start crying. He says, what's wrong with you now? I said, I can't tell if the fish are fresh. They don't have any heads.
Oh, gosh.
They had filleted them out, and they were making stock, and so that's my early memory. And that door that led into that walk-in cooler, although it's not a cooler, exists because every day I go by that, I'm reminded my grandfather served fresh product.
So you had, I guess, from playing there and having a good time with your grandfather teaching you things, always a fond memory of the restaurant?
Fond memories. You know, I can remember seeing him throw away 60 gallons of bean soup, arguing with the chef because it was too salty. And from what I recalled from that was that we're only as good as our last meal. You couldn't serve something that wasn't the same as it was the way they had it at the time
How true
before.
that is.
You know, and I started working there at the age of 10 and in the summers. And it was fun for me. I've never looked at what I do as a job. I mean, it's really enjoyable.
What did you do at 10 years old in a restaurant?
Well, my dad didn't want me working in the kitchen. And my brother was my boss. He was 15 years old. The first day I quit 3 times because he was making me polish the brass tips to the chairs. And I told my dad I didn't want my brother being my boss. So I started working in the kitchen because that's where my true love is. And I love washing dishes.
Crazy.
It's
That's
the most
crazy.
important job in the restaurant, responsible for the most expensive piece of equipment, but more important, responsible for the sanitation of every eating utensil that every person's going to eat from and drink from. And what I also learned, though, is you can see the food coming back. And I always watch back. I go work behind the line, and the waiters can't see that it's me because there's glasses and things in front. And you can see the food coming back. And I've noted many times where a dish maybe wasn't being eaten consistently, it's because one time the sauce was salted. So you can learn a lot from that.
That's a good point.
So I mean,
That's quality control on the way back.
You know, it's
somehow.
To me, it's the most important position.
So you went in and you went to school here in Tampa, and then you went to college. Where?
I went to Jesuit High School, and as a sophomore, I had a counselor that helped me find the best restaurant schools in the United States. I had a book, and the best school at that time for me was the University of Denver. They had the best restaurant school. Cornell was the most famous and the oldest.
Yes, that's right. I remember that.
And Cornell is more in the hotel. Michigan State was more institutional. But the University of Denver really focused on the restaurant industry. Small school, 100 students. They only accepted 1 out of 10. They accepted me. I'm amazed when I think about it today. I wasn't the best student. I had received an opportunity to play football at Michigan State, and my dad thought that was a great idea. But I explained to them that they were going to make me study PE. And the question I asked him, do you want me to be a professional football player or restaurateur? That's a stupid question. I said, well, then I better go to Denver. And then I finished up at the University of Madrid's Hotel Restaurant School my last year, and my first year of marriage to my wife of 40 years, Melanie.
Wow, you went to Madrid for the rest of
the best
schooling.
Education.
And they taught you more about restaurant?
You worked from 7 in the morning till 1 in the kitchen, and then you took a break, and you came back from 5 to 8 and took your courses. And it was a great education, and they had you work in different departments. It was a wonderful experience. I'm thankful to my dad, and I was engaged to be married to a young lady I'd met when she was a freshman and I was a sophomore. And he says, listen, get married now, I'll help you. And I think my dad, because it was that 1 year away that my wife and I were together, and she'd wait for me, I'd come back from school, she'd make me something to eat, and we went back. So to us, Madrid is a second home, and one that we have fond memories that first year.
It's a beautiful city, too.
You know, I didn't realize how great of an opportunity I had. My dad gave me an American Express card. He says, part of your education is dining at some of the finest Spanish restaurants. And we got tired of eating out. And when I finished school, he takes me out. I can show you the exact spot in front of the parking lot, in front of the Columbia. He says, are you finished with your education? Yeah, Dad, it was a great experience. And University of Denver, the 3 years, and the last year in Madrid, I'm ready. He says, well, get ready to work long hours. I had this sinking feeling in my stomach. And about a month later, I was working morning, afternoon, and night. I said, Dad, I got this great master's program. He says, son, you blew it. Get ready to work some more. And so that was the beginning. And I was blessed to have worked with my dad for many years till he passed away on December 9th, 1992.
1992 it is.
It's amazing, 21 years.
That is amazing. And I so remember going to the Columbia and hearing him, watching him. I mean,
You know,
he was, I mean, I played
He was a
piano. I
celebrity.
played violin when I was like 12 or 13. So, you know, I liked the violin. And he
difficult.
was such a showman. Oh my gosh, was he good.
My mom was a concert pianist, graduate Juilliard. So I played piano as a young boy, and then I played violin. Very difficult instrument
Yes,
to
it
play.
is.
So I had a rock and roll band as a teenager. I'm trying to think how my parents could put up with that racket. We played in the 60s.
You were playing rock and roll, but you were playing on piano or
No,
on
on the guitar. I
keyboard?
played the guitar.
Okay.
I studied flamenco guitar. I'm sorry, I played flamenco guitar as well in Spain, and so I liked the psychedelic era, and that's the music I played. But you know, if my dad saw me sitting here today, casual the way I am, you know, my dad was always dressed to.
Yeah, to the
And so
T.
I had to become my own person and give up the dream of ever being a musician because you can never fill those.
Although
dad's
you could
shoes.
probably do the same routine, then walk
Yeah.
around with whatever your guitar.
No,
That
I
would be
don't-
kind of fun.
listen, we
Maybe
would've
you
dro-
should do a nostalgia of that. That's a good one.
I don't want to draw. I don't want to scare away business.
You've really expanded the Columbia now, so you're in so many places. I know I've enjoyed the one in St. Armand's Key and a few other places now. St. Pete.
Yeah, St. Armand's. We've been there for 53 years.
It's a great
And
restaurant.
then we opened in 1983 in St. Augustine.
Okay,
A
yeah.
beautiful restaurant we designed and built in the historic district. We're in Clearwater Sand Key.
Right.
And we're also in Disney's Town of Celebration right near Orlando, near the gates of Disney World. We were at the St. Pete Pier, but the city closed the pier down.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So-
and you had Cha-Cha Coconuts
Yeah,
over
we
there,
had both
too.
units, and we're hoping to meet with the mayor that's going to be the elected mayor, Rick Kreisman, after he gets his transition in place, and talk about a future. We're ready to make an investment along there to help. We think St. Pete's just a great community.
It is.
The waterfront, the arts, it's phenomenal.
Now, what are you going to do down at the old Waterworks building?
This is
Because that seems like such a cool idea, too.
I'd say there's no coincidence. It's all God's will. It drives me to these areas. It's a building that was built in 1903, the same year
Yeah.
the Columbia started. It was a source for the city of Tampa water. The spring that's there was the water that my grandfather made coffee with, made the Spanish bean soup with. And the amazing thing is when you drive down the Columbia, down 7th Avenue, 4 blocks from this site where it's right off of 7th Avenue, I drive by where my mother used to live with my grandparents, which is 4 blocks away from the new restaurant. And the name of the spring is Ulele, U-L-E-L-E, named after a Native American Indian princess. Pre-Pocahontas, her father was a chief, and she saved a young 17-year-old Spanish sailor named Juan Ortiz from being put to death by her father because the Spanish had come in and disfigured his face and killed many of the people. And my mom was called Lele by my children, L-E-L-E. I say my mom was a reincarnated as Ulele. And so that we're so close. So we're going to do a restaurant that's going to pay homage to the Native Americans that lived here, using foods that are harvested and caught here in Florida.
No
We're-
Spanish bent to it? you
No,
mean?
no Spanish. Well,
Okay.
influenced by the Spaniards that came here, but influenced by the Native Americans, with a twist with the people that came over from the old world here. So it won't be Spanish in any way.
When is that expected to open?
Opening in April 2014. We're
Not
cooking.
long away.
No, we're doing a 10-foot round barbacoa grill that we're going to be. People can see all the food being cooked right there, using citrus wood as a fuel source, along with gas. we'll be doing oysters on the grill with a grated cheese and garlic butter and very tasty. I've been working on this menu for 2 years. And then my great-grandfather, who started the Columbia, started it actually on December 17, 1903. He was the general manager of the Florida Brewery, which opened the Columbia Saloon. So he was brewing beer. So part of our new restaurant, we're going to have the Eulalie Brewery as well, making beer like my great-grandfather did from the water of the Eulalie Spring.
You don't carry that beer now. You're going to recreate it?
We're recreating. We're testing beer right now. We're making it. And the brewery is being built as I'm talking to you right now.
This is amazing because this town is turning into like a craft beer heaven.
It's amazing. It's just coincidental that I was just trying to go back to my roots, and now it's taken off. And so many great breweries here. And Joey Redner from Cigar City has been really helpful. A wonderful young man. I've admired his dedication. And I give him a lot of credit for what's happened here in Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, he's really pushed it, and it's been fantastic. He's made a huge investment.
Yeah, he has, and we're making a big investment, but through his friendship and consulting with us, we've been lucky. This spring that we're building the restaurant, I say it's got magical waters, and the city is reintroducing it to the river so the manatees can swim and you can see them. I would go out there and meditate and pray, and I needed a brewmaster. Well, 3 days later, a gentleman that worked for Hops for 15 years, a brewmaster, contacts me. And so Tim Shankton is part of our team as a brewmaster. But I needed a person to help run the restaurant, a person with creative genius that understands a philosophy I have and has similar philosophies to the restaurant industry about being involved with the community, giving people an opportunity to create a new job. And I was out there, and a young man by the name of Keith Sedita, who had been with the Outback Company for about 13 years, and I think 9 years as a Fleming operating partner here at Tampa. And he had started a new concept with Chris Sullivan, with Carmel, which is a great concept as well. And I wanted a guy like Keith, and then all of a sudden Keith emailed me 2 days later. Wanted to talk to me about opportunities. And so
you have something going on there in the world, don't you?
It's scary. Yeah. And I just believe I've been blessed. And so
one of those grandparents witches or something like that,
you know,
or fortune?
my mother and father talked to me. One day I was facing all kind of challenges from the city, from different groups, and I said, should I do this project, the Eulalie restaurant? And people in the family in my company were questioning me. I said, Lord, please show me a sign. So I go to the river, and the water right now is coming out of a pipe. And I go down just to look down, and a manatee had its head inside the pipe. Pulls it out, looks at me. I said, I'm not turning back. And so we've gone forward, and we're making about a $4 million investment. And we're going to create jobs in a community that needs assistance. We're working with the D.W. Waters High School, a high school for troubled kids, and they have a hospitality program. We're going to be working with Brewster Votech. They have a hospitality program for young people that have autism but are functioning. We're going to help them get jobs. And we're investing in a church that the Tampa Civic Heights Association is doing, that they're going to be able to do catering. We're going to teach these young people how to prepare food, how to serve it to up to 200 people. How do you build self-esteem, self-confidence? That's how you do it.
Work.
And so this is a different project for me.
Yeah, and you're talking about a little bit about your involvement in the community, but it's very long-standing. You've been tremendously involved. I remember you're still on the University of Tampa Board of Fellows, are you not?
I am. I'm on the University of South Florida Board, the foundation. I'm on the athletic.
UT has grown incredibly. I mean, it's
from the time you and I were on that, how it's changed, evolved.
Yeah, the minute Ron got on. Ron got up there.
When I go on that campus,
it's unbelievable.
It's just the energy and the feeling. I speak to a couple of family business classes there annually, and makes me want to go back to school.
Yeah, we were located there for 25 years on their campus.
The campus, you see all the building, the dorms, and when in the dorms and the eating facilities are great. And,
what they've done on Kennedy Boulevard, just with that girls' soccer or whatever that field is.
It's the Harvard of the South. It's known that way. And I go up to Babson College up in Wellesley, Massachusetts. They've been talking about our family business, do a case study for the last 9 years. And the University of Tampa is so well respected up there. And Babson's the #1 entrepreneurial school in the country. And to hear them talk so well of the University of Tampa, it makes me feel really proud.
Yeah, but not only UT, you've been involved in so many other things.
Well, been heavily involved with the University of South Florida, and Moffitt's really one of the passions I have.
Yeah.
I've been on their board now for about 18 years. And
the reason you got so involved with cancer?
Well, when I was a young boy, 12, 13 years old, a friend of mine, Marty Sal, whose father was a major of the sheriff, he and I had a hobby of raising pigeons, and and I was told he had leukemia, and I didn't know what that was and didn't understand how serious it was till he died. Back when I was 13, 100% chance the children are going to die from cancer. It wasn't until my 40s or 50s they voiced how that affected my life. And today, 92.8% of children can be cured, and that's good, but not good enough. And my dad died from pancreatic cancer. My grandparents had cancer. My grandfather, Marcelino Gonzalez, died of leukemia. And so it's touched a lot of lives. But one that really impacted me, my wife's father, Rudy Heine, died at 50 of lymphoma. There was nothing they could do. Today, they could have saved him. So I'm hoping that in my life, if not my life, in my children's life, that we found a vaccine so that nobody will ever have to suffer this horrible disease.
It is that.
And so it's a mission, and we talk of a young girl, Jocelyn Kalsenberg. I like to talk about all the successes.
Yeah, I read this story of this young gal who was going to have her arm amputated from cancer. How old was she?
My energy is toward children, and Moffitt wasn't doing research on children, and we've got him to do it. She was 9 years old.
9.
They're going to amputate her arm, and 3 days before, her mother found that Dr. Doug Letson here in Tampa, part of the Moffitt Cancer Program, and the sarcoma was what she had. And they saved her arm. I came in 3 days after the surgery, showed me pictures, and seen the arm open, I see these nerves. I figured that she had no use of her arms. Well, she comes in with her mom and dad, and she's moving her fingers. And the doctor says, take your arm out of the sling. She takes her arm out of the sling. Well, 6 weeks later, she's playing the piano. And this is something, they won't have to do another surgery because the titanium rod that's in there, through the magnetic device that they have, they can extend it as she grows. And I can tell you about Billy Gowacki, who at 9 years old had the same surgery. He had his femur, his thigh removed. And the treatment back then, he developed a leukemia that was life-threatening. He had a 90% chance of not surviving. And he fought through it. And they saved his leg. Billy's 21 years old at the University of South Florida as a senior. So that's why, when I hear that, and what bothers me is that I hear sometimes that pharmaceutical companies say there's no return on investment. I said, we're talking about a child that's going to make a difference in the life. And so that's where my passion comes in. And I put on an annual run called Richard's Run for Life. It's not about promoting me, promoting my company. There's no logos on this shirt. I just put on a quote that's to inspire people. And this last year, we donated $100,000 to the adolescent young adult sarcoma. That's led by Dr. Damon Reed and Doug Letson. I'm really proud of that and proud of what we're doing right here in Tampa. People don't know things that are happening. The surgery that Jocelyn had was the first of its kind in North America.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you're funding that doctor.
We're funding it. We're funding, we just completed a $500,000 donation to them that we did over 4 years. We've donated over $1 million to them.
So outside of children and universities and cancer, what are your other passions?
We have 10 scholarships at University of South Florida for minority students that wouldn't be able to go to school otherwise. And my mom set that up, I think 22 years ago, and I didn't understand it. That young lady that got that scholarship that wouldn't have gone to school is now a doctor, a physician at UCLA. And then we had 2.
Are they all medical scholarships or just all different?
Different areas. My mother and I both sponsored the first one I ever did with a brother and sister. The mother was a single mother, migrant worker. The father died in the fields. And Julio went on to get a degree in engineering 4.0. His sister, Elsie, was the outstanding senior out of 4,000 plus students, the best grades. She got a degree in engineering. She went on to work for the New Mexico nuclear plant, and Julio's now still with the GE Aeronautical. And when he came back to see me the next year at the holidays, he came to thank me because he said when he was a senior at Brandon, he was wondering what tomato fields he'd be picking from, and strawberries.
I had no clue that he would be reaching out for migrant workers.
If you don't help these young, deserving students that are financially challenged, so we established the Adele and Caesar Gonzmart Endowment, and we also, for the 100th anniversary, the Columbia Centenario Endowment, that each of them generated about 5 scholarships full. So I mean, that's how we make a difference, and that's what I'm trying to do.
How many people are you employing now in your restaurant?
850 people.
850 over, what is it, 7 restaurants? Not 9.
Yes, and we.
That's before you open the one in.
We have one at the airport too, the Columbia Cafe at the Delta Terminal, and the Columbia Cafe at the Tampa Bay History Center. You know, what makes me even more proud is that out of our staff, 23% have been with us 10 years or more in the industry. That's
amazing.
And our longest employee right now is George Gito, 53 years. And
my goodness.
we had a piano player, Henry Tudela, played 64 years.
Oh my God.
Guinness World Book of Records recognized him with the longest gig.
No kidding. That's
So,
fantastic.
But
where do you see us going in Tampa these days? Or
Well,
where do we need to be going, do you see?
I'm very impressed with Mayor Buckhorn, his vision in the public-private partnership. And that's why I got involved. Mayor Iorio had a dream, and I jumped on board the History Center. I believe we have a hidden jewel in the Hillsborough River.
Oh, absolutely.
And so this new restaurant we're building, it's going to be joined with a 5-acre park. There's going to be a water park and playground, a wedding gazebo. There's going to be a concert stage. I'm going to create the Waterworks Music Festival in November to benefit the Tampa Heights Junior Civic Association. I want to bring people back together and that they can enjoy something that doesn't cost you anything. We're building, I've commissioned to have a statue of the Native American Indian ukulele. You don't have to go in the restaurant, it'll be right there by the spring and tell the story. It's going to show a young woman with her hand over her heart and her hand extending out to her father saying, don't kill him, I love him. And the statue is just breathtaking. I want to teach children the feeling of compassion. This taught, I learned with my grandfather, Marcelino. I used to go to the Plant Park at University of Tampa as a young boy. I used to love to go see the bronze dogs and see the minnows. So I'm trying to create something that I remembered and that hopefully families during this tough time could just walk along the park.
Some years ago I saw a plan that Beck Construction put together.
Nothing like that.
Not like that anymore at all.
We're maintaining
Is there going to be any residential apartments in that area too?
In the 50-acre parcel that was there, that's being developed. There'll be residential offices and so forth. We're ahead of the game. We'll be there ahead. But we're maintaining the historical integrity of this building. Very, very important to me. If there was any steel removed, we put it back in the building. The tables are being made out of 150-year-old pine wood from a farm that was being dismantled. We went and got the pipes. The pipes were underground. We're getting them and cleaning them up and using them as decorations in the landscaping. The doors are going to be recreated from old pumps that were in there and the gears. So when you go inside,
that was a clever building anyway. I mean, I went in there back, I don't know, a few years ago when Beck did a presentation on something, they had a little reception in there, and it was a fabulous little building.
We're saving all the windows
but you're making it bigger than
no, we're staying the same size.
Same size? Okay.
We're building a new mezzanine up there. There was an old mezzanine, but we're keeping the same windows, and there's a crank to open up the windows at the top. And we're recreating the 4 garage door openings that face the river so you can sit there overlooking it. And to me,
that'll be really great.
And then we're going to be doing outdoor dining and then...
Can we have a boat drive us up there?
There's going to be a dock. We're having a dock built.
Okay.
I think it's imperative in order to make the waterfront work, the river, we have to have docks. Can you imagine maybe coming to have dinner there, getting on a boat taxi, taking to the Straths, which is only 400 yards,
right.
Or if we're going to the Tampa Bay Times Forum, or if you're going to the History Center, if we could have docks where people with boats can stop.
You can go to Channel Side or back or whatever.
But I've been to Hong Kong, saw the boat traffic. I've been to Vancouver, been to Amsterdam. I see people using boats and taxis.
Right.
You don't want to own a boat, but if you can get on a taxi for like $1 and just enjoy going up and
in
down.
Italy, they have the vaporettos, right? It's wonderful.
We have this beautiful source. Mayor had
who
the vision.
knew it was back there half the time?
Mayor Buckhorn is making it happen, and I couldn't be more excited.
Okay, so where do you think the people who are watching this show, what they should be focused on now that we're getting all this done?
I think you have to come back down to Tampa. I think you have to visit Curtis Hickson Park. We had the Gasparilla Music Festival takes place in March and is drawing people. Channel Side, that's going to turn around. The Tampa Bay History Center, they have the best collection of maps. When I heard maps, so what? I was fascinated. I spent 2 hours looking at these maps that before satellites, that they could distinguish the shape of Florida and Texas and Central America. From the 1500s, they have maps. And we're going to use one of those maps for the menu cover of our new restaurant, Ukulele.
Oh, nice.
It's just fascinating, the history that people don't understand. Tampa has grown up. It's still a small city. And I'm trying to maintain that small feel. With the brewery, my grandfather had a son that made ice cream. We're going to be making ice cream again at the new project. My grandfather's brother had the tropical ice cream, and so we're going to recreate we're using a dairy that's in Mayaka, Florida, for our cream, and we're going to be using organic vanilla from Uganda, and we're going to be
my goodness.
we're going to be making a coconut ice cream like we used to make in the old days. I already have the shells, and we're testing it at the Columbia now. So
oh my goodness, you really are going all crazy.
And what we're doing as well is going back, start thinking about the food that we used to serve at the turn of the century. And when I was growing up, there was no antibiotics, there wasn't hormones and genetically modified foods. And so the chicken that we'll be using at the Eulalie will all be just natural, no antibiotics, hormones. It'll be hormone free. So we're going that whole route to really pay attention.
You're not going to start a farm too, are you? No.
Well, I have friends.
Okay.
Priscilla Trace, they've been farming in Parrish, Florida since 1870. They do tomatoes, and they're going to be doing my produce for me. And they have 10 acres. And when you taste, I was out there 3 years ago with them. I became friends with them through USF. And when you go, you pick fresh okra. I didn't know what okra looked like. You pick it, take it off the bush, and you pick a fresh eggplant, and you picking the squash. Everything just tastes night and day. So with one small unit, you can really do that. I'm going back to the roots. I'm not trying to catch on to what everybody's doing. I'm trying to do what my great-grandfather did, what my grandfather did.
That's fabulous.
I mean, it's so much fun testing the food, and we've been testing different types of pork, and it's amazing what the industry's done to pork, and they've taken away the flavor. They want to be the next white meat, but where it's tender, but it's lost its flavor. So we've been testing all the different types of pork and healthy. I have a daughter that's very, very concerned about the foods, and she's the one that's made me aware and staying away from these genetically modified. We don't use farm-raised fish. We don't use farm-raised shrimp in the Columbias. So they're out there in the sea eating their natural foods instead of being polluted ponds in Asia. And Americans don't realize that 89% of the shrimp that Americans eat are all imported from Asia. But
really?
Yes, at the Columbia restaurant, all of our fish, all our shrimp are wild caught by family.
I guess a lot of this is not known, and as you open the new restaurant, and have some press out about that, maybe more people will become aware of
what I do is I visit the people I do business with. I want to inspect their facilities, and I have that ability to do that and have great people working for me. I want to see how they process. The people that do our ham, I wanted to see how they do it and check it. And the same thing happened with the shrimp and the seafood. And we took grouper off the menu about 9 years ago because it was being overfished, and I was concerned that they were changing and switching fish.
Switching out,
yeah. And we took it off,
about
and the company said, well, you don't have to be worried. We'll serve you grouper. Well, that same company got caught for switching, and they listed every restaurant. And so we're now using grouper again because it's sustainable. We're working with a quality company that I know is checked, and it's grouper what we're getting.
Your attention to detail and the historical things and your family, combining them all, it's fantastic. I'm so glad we got to have you on here today.
I can't wait to have you Eulalie.
Appreciate your restaurant. Appreciate all you've done for Hillsborough County. And we'll see this audience next time. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.